It is a big idea, a new world order.
Imagine the future. A strange new weapon detonated high over a large city. No explosion, no visible destruction, but everything electronic within the range of this weapon dies permanently. Every electronic gadget in every home and office disabled. No computers, no TV, no life support systems in hospitals, no water supply, no heat, no lights. Truly a return to the Dark Ages.
Everything that we've built up in the last 200 years, let alone in the last 20 years, would be completely destroyed, would be non-existent. Imagine the cost that it would be to rebuild our cities. Think of it in terms of transportation. We might even have to pump water. It's at that basic level.
Imagine a full range of new weapons. One can take out the electricity in your city. The other can destroy you.
We have been testing what I'm going to call microwave weapons for crowd control. You can affect a large area by sweeping the beam and making sure that people are in the beam long enough to get a very nasty sensation of being cooked, which, to a very fine depth, they are.
If you haven't heard about these weapons, it's no surprise. Their development has been secretive, and they sound more like science fiction than reality.
We're just learning enough about the science to be dangerous. It's like giving a kindergartner a hand grenade and hoping they don't pull the pin.
Welcome to the world of electromagnetic warfare.
The revolution in military affairs, the RMA as the military calls it, which is a total shift away from bombs, bullets, and ordnance into energy weapons as the primary driver, whether it be high-powered lasers, ion beams, microwave radiation for creating heat sensations on the body. This is where the direction is going. And the military, in a paper called The Revolution in Military Affairs and Conflict Short of War, written in 1989 by the U.S. Army War College, talked about this shift, and they equated it to the discovery of, or the introduction rather, of gunpowder in the Middle Ages in Europe and the introduction of atomic weapons in the last century. The change that's taking place now is just as profound as the changes that took place then.
As the 21st century unfolds, the same technology that gave us the benefit of cell phones, microwaves, and remote control is now being applied to a completely new array of powerful weapons. The development veiled in secrecy until a certain New York Times reporter started digging.
Well, the New York Times wanted to do a story on the new frontiers of military technology, and we have done a lot of work previously on what have been called smart bombs and the satellite-guided munitions. We really wanted to find really what the next frontier was. And I did some reporting, talking to some military analysts that I know, and also some people actually in the investment community who follow companies that make their money off government contracts, and they mentioned to me this whole new category of weapons known as directed energy or electromagnetic weapons. And that's really how we found out about it. And then we started doing some reporting, and one of the hard things about it was that the government really didn't want to come forward with a lot of information. Most of these programs still remain secret or classified.
Manufacturers are now developing a full range of electromagnetic weapons which pack an invisible wallop, hundreds of times more powerful than the electrical current in a lightning bolt. One can blast enemy missiles out of the sky. Another can be used to blind soldiers on a battlefield. Still another to control an unruly crowd by burning the surface of their skin. If detonated over a large city, an electromagnetic weapon could destroy all electronics in seconds. Though their effects may be different, they have one remarkable feature in common. They all use directed energy to create a powerful electromagnetic pulse.
What is an electromagnetic pulse weapon? Actually, you can think of it probably too simply, but not terribly inaccurately, as a lightning bolt on steroids. Right now, an electromagnetic pulse from a lightning bolt is a pretty crude club. The wavelength is way too long. So ideally, what you would like to do is shift the energy of the electromagnetic pulse from the long wavelength of a lightning bolt down into a microwave. Now, what is a microwave? Microwaves are all the waves between a meter and a millimeter. Now think of how well that couples with everything in our society, because almost everything we use electronically fits between a meter and a millimeter. If you look at a standard electromagnetic device that's made to read electromagnetic pulses like your cell phone, here's an antenna. It's actually made to absorb electromagnetic radiation. It's just not designed to take the power of the pulse of an electromagnetic weapon.
These electromagnetic weapons can be used to destroy basically anything with a chip in it. Not only communication systems and devices, but power systems, television and radio systems. Even most cars these days have an electronic ignition in them. And if they were deployed in the relevant place, in our society now, and in many countries, anything with a chip in it could be disabled.
The electromagnetic pulse effect as a weapon really came to our attention quite accidentally during the early atomic tests. When the first detonations occurred, unprotected electromagnetic equipment, which we had a lot of back then, died. And of course, this came to everybody's attention because a lot of this was instrumentation that was supposed to be recording the effects of the weapon. So of course, everybody standing around this early destroyed and arced out and melted equipment, shaking their heads and saying, what happened? Especially since there was no wind damage, there was no overpressure damage, there was just fried electrical equipment. Well, it didn't take long after a few tests and iterations to realize there's a huge electromagnetic pulse generated when a nuclear weapon explodes. And a huge electromagnetic pulse is very destructive to unprotected electrical equipment. And then it was sort of like, whoa, there's a weapon effect here. So early in the 50s, at Los Alamos, where they were doing this high-level nuclear work, they said, what about just creating this electromagnetic pulse? And that's where the early work was done on trying to figure out a way to convert explosive energy into electrical energy. And since that time, we've had laboratories and an active research program that's been spending its time developing electromagnetic and high-energy microwave weapons.